everybody, I got a tip. If you want me here, take a trip. It make you holler, it make you shout. Come along with me, we're tripping now. Now listen, girls, and listen, boys. These little things, they ain't no toys. They are for real, know what I mean. They make you holler, they make you shout. Come on, baby, we'll trip on out.
Hey, what is going on, y'all? We have a very lovely special guest today, Miss
Hello.
Miss Jilly Fisher. She's really just eye candy, so take it for what it is.
Yeah, nothing I say is important.
I beg to differ. Like there are times when you've been saying things to me that I won't repeat here. And I was standing at attention, if you know what I mean.
Oh, well, nice.
All right.
Objective achieved.
Yeah. There's nothing like frustrating an old man and have to give him a heart attack. But that's all right. It's all good.
My favorite pastime.
All right. So, the Delphi murders. I've talked a little bit about it in the past. I'm from that area. It's part of my old stomping grounds. And when they let the news out that they were part of a ritual sacrifice, I was not surprised. I mean, my blood kind of ran cold, but I was not surprised because that area has a long history of racist groups and different kinds of Satanism and Odinism. I've had friends that were into all that kind of stuff, so I was exposed to it and met a few people through them back in the day. We're talking about like when I was in high school, and so like from the mid 90s all the way up to about the mid early 2000s when I was running around that area. And we used to go to that bridge late at night and party and do a lot of shit that we should have been arrested for. So have those girls getting killed there kind of ruined it for me. But yeah, that area has a long history of, like, I knew a couple of guys that were into Odinism, and I don't really know a lot about it, but Odinism is basically, from my understanding, like the worship of your ancestors. And some of them take that to mean that you can't, that you should hate everybody that's not just like you. And there were a lot of racist Odins, or I forget. There's another name for them, but I forget. But yeah, I used to hunt in that area a lot, and camp and fish and all that kind of stuff. And it was not uncommon. There's a woods about 20 miles from there that we called the after the Blair Witch movie came out, we started calling it the Blair Witch Woods because we used to find shit like that, made in their sticks, formed into different things. We not just in that woods, but it wasn't uncommon to find places where they had like tortured and sacrificed animals, mostly cats, and yeah, they would paint shit on the trees with the blood, and not just Delphi, but some of the other towns around there. Like they,
in a city near me, I was walking on a river trail, and there was a goose that had been obviously strangled in a bundle of sticks, arranged just like you said. So it's still going on. And definitely when I was a teenager, there were older people, like in their 40s, late 30s, who were in that group, definitely into that stuff and very vocal about it.
right. Yeah, that's how it is here too. What a lot of what it is something I noticed even back then. Like you would have the older people. There would be like one or two older guys, and most of the rest were like misfit teenagers that the other groups wouldn't accept, but he would, like the leader would have them so manipulated that they'd go out and do all kind of, do his bidding or whatever.
Yeah.
And there was also these that area is just, it's all little small towns, and everybody knows everybody's business. Like the closest major town to that area would be Lafayette, Indiana, and Delphi's not that far from it. Delphi is, or at least was, really nice town. You could tell in the early 2000s when meth moved into there. It's wild because there are neighborhoods on the what would be on the south side. Like you could see e- as the neighborhoods went down the line, they would get more and more dilapidated. It was like you could tell. And I did some fugitive recoveries there too, so I learned that somebody brought meth to a neighborhood, then share it with their neighbors, and it just kind of spread on down the line, and you can see it. We'd be doing surveillance down there, and these dudes would be taking their engines apart and laying everything out very neatly on sheets for no apparent reason. This would be 2 or 3 in the morning, and the wife would be inside like cleaning the walls with slices of bread and shit. It was wild. But yeah, I had a friend who was into Odin worship, and he kind of like my inner circle. We had each other. We were each other's inner circle, but um, most of my friends back then like didn't work. It was just me and one other guy always had jobs. So the other guys, because we were busy, would find other people to go around with, and they started running around with skinhead groups and um, various kinds of occult groups and stuff. So I kind of got a glimpse of that stuff, and a couple of them I just said, "Hey, man, we can't," because they would be like, they used to be just normal stoner punk rocker dude, whatever, and then all of a sudden they're shaving their heads and wearing fuck me boots up to here, and doing all this Nazi shit out in public, and I just I do things, crazy things in public just to make people go, what the fuck? But that kind of thing, I just I can't go with that. Um, but yeah, there are a lot of different. So this area was hit hard by the satanic panic of the '80s, and some people started doing the Satanist kind of stuff just to rebel or just to get attention or just to piss people off. But then there were some that were serious about it, and that there are different kinds of Satanism. Um, like you have LaVeyan Satanism, which they don't even really believe in Satan. Anton LaVey created that church to get a tax break, and that's what we know as the Satanic Church. And the Satanic Bible, that Satanic Bible tells you not to hurt animals, not to hurt children. It's basically about respect. Respect other people and expect respect. But if they disrespect you, fucking take them out. And that's kind of how I live my life anyway. Um, but yeah, it came to no surprise to me to find out that they're saying that those girls were killed as a part of an occult sacrifice, because there's always been a lot of that. A lot of it was overhyped, and something else. I mean, this couldn't be covered up, but people disappear around here like a lot. People just disappear, and the point I was kind of getting at, to where we're kind of close to like Chicago or Indianapolis. We have a lot of people that have a lot of money that like work in Indianapolis but don't want to live there, so they commute to Delphi or whatever little town. So to keep the property values high, all these little towns fucking like they don't report shit that happens. So there's a lot more stuff going on than what we'll know about because it never gets put in the newspaper.
And the stuff that does get put in the newspaper, the details are insane out there in Indiana.
Right. There are things that I had firsthand knowledge of that were never in the fucking paper. And we do have, and I don't know about now, but back then, we did have some cops that were into the occult stuff. Um, there was a place where we found they had tortured and killed a cat. That particular woods, nobody was supposed to be there. Nobody had permission to be there except for us. So we started going out there in our ghillie suits and shit and hiding, you know, before it would get dark and wait for them. Usually nobody came, but um, this one night, there was like 12 cars that pulled up and they all walked back up into the woods. And there was only two of us. Um, so we started shooting our AKs over their heads and they took off. And I don't know if they ever came back, but yeah.
Interesting. Cops are kind of weird. I've come to find out, having personal experience now with a few of them.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just the people that I draw to myself anyway.
Well, I mean,
more than
you are a badge. To be fair, you are a badge bunny, so.
Yeah, I do have that title.
Oh, yeah, White Claw. I went ahead and wrenched you because I don't know why you were banned. So now you can't get banned, but just don't abuse it, or I will take it back.
Did you hear about that case where a guy hit a jogger while she was jogging and then took her into a hole in the ground, essentially? If I'm remembering right, or mashing two cases together, it was like a pit he dug in a barn that it was just a freezer tipped onto its
Oh,
side.
yeah.
That I thought that was pretty close to your area.
Yeah, what was that in Ohio? It might have been.
Yeah, it might have been.
Maybe we're talking about, okay, this dude, this was back in the late 80s or early 90s. This dude that I knew, his name was Billy Back. I'm sure that somebody can Google Billy Back murder or whatever, but that motherfucker, um, he only went to prison for one murder, and he stuck a guy in a freezer, stuck an old man in a freezer while he was still alive, and I guess when they found him, um, I guess he tried so hard to get out of that freezer that he made his fingers bleed, and then he eventually suffocated. But Billy Back, man, I knew his brother pretty well, and I knew Billy a little bit. Like we know that he's killed a few people across the country, but he just never got caught. Um, one of them he admitted to, but I don't think they ever charged him with it.
It's
So
surprising
yeah,
who
there's
takes out people like that they know that they have multiple crimes under their belt and they're just like walking around at large in society.
it happens. I know for a fact it happens. That's something else that nobody ever got charged with. So I really don't want to stoke that fire, but it does happen.
There was another case in Wisconsin where some guy got out of prison and off the trail in a state park or something, not too far from where kids were playing and stuff. He had this whole thing, like a hut built into the ground and into a pile of trees. And he had all this stuff that he brought from the dump a few miles away and was living there with rigged electricity and stuff for at least a year, if I'm remembering right. That kind of stuff, every time I'm walking in the woods, I'm thinking. And then you, with that video, I'm thinking, who else is here?
Right. Yeah, I mean, if you know how to do it, it's that. See, this is a part of why people, like the 411. I don't know if y'all are familiar with that. I've read most of the 411 books. And it just talks about how people just disappear out in the woods and how mysterious it is. It's really not, though, because um, when you have a lot of vegetation, especially like if a hunter is dressed in camouflage, he could be just laying on the ground and not even trying to hide from you, and you'll walk right past him. I've had playing paintball and shit. I've had people walk right over me. Um, and there was my son's mother. I don't know if you've ever been to Turkey Run. Turkey Run State Park is in southern Indiana, but we used to go there a lot. And I like to go off trail, which you're really not supposed to do. But there's a lot of really cool shit that you don't see on the trail. And there are places there where there'll be a crevice. It's all granite with some vegetation growing on the top of it. There will be crevices that are only about 2 foot wide, but they're 40 feet deep and they're covered in vegetation. You want to use a walking stick when you go out there so that you don't fall in. But if you fall into one of those holes and land at the bottom and the vegetation just closes back over you, I mean, nobody will find you.
Yeah, that's your grave now. There's a lot of
Yeah,
stuff like out west, they have volcanic vents. And then in Florida, for example, there's all the limestone karst system, which is just porous ground where sinkholes appear randomly. So
right.
you could be walking over solid ground and then all of a sudden it gives out. So you don't even have to just worry about people out there.
The link should be pinned. If it's not, I'll throw it back out there. Anybody can come up and bullshit about this, but I kind of want to stay on this topic. I don't want to get up on the drama bullshit. I just I don't have any inside knowledge of the case itself, but this Delphi, and it's pronounced Delphi, not Delphi, like a lot of people pronounce it. And then I've talked about this a few times too, but I'll talk about it again. When those girls went missing, a friend of mine, or I should really an associate, not so much a friend, but he knew that through the Boy Scouts and stuff that I was trained was part of a search team. Like through the Boy Scouts, not like through the fire department or anything. But so he knew that, and a place that he was renting to hunt in was right across the river from where the girls went missing. And he calls me up. He's like, "Hey, we got a couple of missing girls. You want to come?" I said, "Well, it's going to take me 2 hours just to get ready and get there." And I really thought that by the time I got down there, they would be found because that area is not very big. Um, and if they fell in the river, uh, Deer Creek that runs through there that the Monon High Bridge goes over, that's actually part of the Wabash River. It's a branch of the Wabash River. And if they fell in that river, we weren't going to find them there anyway. They would have been taken downstream. So I figured, yeah, fuck it. I wasn't feeling good that day, and we went down there. I wasn't part of like the official search team. We were just checking out that woods in case they happened to, cross the river, which would have been really dumb in February, but could have happened. So we went out, we searched that woods, and we had a police scanner and some CB radios that we were talking to people with. And they said, hey, it was like 8 o'clock at night. It gets dark at like 5:30 or 6 at that time of year. They're like, hey, we're calling off the search team. I'm like, what the fuck? They're still out there. So we built a big ass bonfire and hoping that if the girls were still out there, that they would see it and, come and find us. So the next day they were still missing. And so we were just hanging out there, looking through binoculars and spotting scopes and things like that. And then we heard over the scanner that they found them. Well, the area that they found them in was kind of across from where that woods was at. We had to walk down that way, but I could not see the girls' bodies, but I could see because they were kind of like down in a gully. I couldn't see them, but I could see where the rescuers were going to where they were at. It irritates me when I see people on the internet say, "Oh, they were in the river. They were in the river." They were not in the fucking river. They were close to it, but they were down in kind of a low area where we couldn't actually see them. And I said then that there's no fucking way that's where they died because we had seen searchers the day before, like walk through that area. Somebody should have seen them. So I believe, and they're kind of saying now that they were killed someplace else and dropped off there, which was kind of spooky to me because had we gone to the other end of the woods that we were in and happened to be looking that way with binoculars, we probably would have seen something. We were just hanging out at the wrong end of the woods, but yeah. Yo, I've been blabbing and not reading your comments, so sorry about that. Yeah, Blues Rider, I have thought about it, and I'm probably going to do it. Actually, I was going to do it with Julie here, but our plans got changed. Um, but yeah, I decided I will go ahead and do it one of these days. I just haven't, I just haven't done it yet. I really want to go and um, go to the spot where we were at, but I don't know how to get a hold of that guy anymore, and I don't know who owns the woods, so I don't have permission to be out there.
Well, we've established good camouflage techniques already, so that shouldn't be a problem, should it?
Well, no, not really.
All right, sounds like a plan.
Oh, well, I guess we could probably do that. We just have to live stream real quietly.
Get some high quality mics so we can whisper for ASMR effect.
I like it. I like it. Yeah, I just get irritated when I see people doing exactly what I'm doing right now, saying shit about this. And I don't have any inside information about the case. I don't personally know any of the people that are involved. Um, but there are some things that I do know are bullshit. Like fucking like it's not Delphi, it's Delphi. That fucking irritates me. And they were not in the water, and yeah.
Yeah, it's just simply no
And
surprise that it has this kind of element to it now with the
it
racist occult shit.
it it did not surprise me at all because the stuff's been going on at least since the early '90s. They're like I said, in that area, hunting and stuff. It was not uncommon to find where they'd had a fire and fucking um like they would take a cat and they would drive four stakes into the ground and like tie the cat's arms and legs out and do things to them. Like we found that kind of stuff, not like a lot, but fairly regularly.
Hmm. I wonder what the significance with the cat is. Is there just an abundance, as evidenced by your videos?
I don't know. I should, yeah, I got, that's probably how I could get rid of some of them damn things. I'll hit one of them people up.
Yeah, I guess if you need any cops' numbers, I can give you a few. More
Right on.
occultist cops to do their bidding. They have been
So,
saying some pretty nasty shit on the internet that's resurfaced. Like that thing about the 11-year-old that you and Dominique have mentioned. Then there was another thing where this girl got hit by a police cruiser that was going through a crosswalk, and a different cop, in referencing the event, was laughing about it and making comments about since she was like um, Indian, that since she was like 26 or something, that her value was lesser. And I'm like, you are losing your Chad status very fast with all of these.
yeah, I saw that. They were kind of making a joke out of yeah.
It's like, I understand how people with trauma can joke about stuff like that, but a lot of the times that I see cops joking about stuff like that, it's never to cope with anything that they're dealing with personally or could potentially deal with. It just seems like they have a callous nature in general and are just glorified civilians.
Pretty much. I've worked with lots of different agencies, and there are some really good cops out there. There really are. But I've run into a lot of just fucking. A lot of these guys were like bullied when they were in high school, so now they're getting their revenge, and they love that authority that they have, and they love to flaunt it.
There's also the fact too that a lot of this stuff I feel like people weren't supposed to hear, and a lot of times the phrase "boys' club" is brought up with these kinds of professions, but it's just kind of human nature to joke about certain things. But
Hmm.
when it becomes a trend where it's a certain callousness, then I think it's questionable. It's almost like how back in like the 1700s or whatever they were talking about physiognomy, where like looks could determine person's character traits. It's almost like there's some kind of gravity, some kind of truth to it.
Yeah, sometimes you can. Sometimes you can just look at a motherfucker and be like, "Oh man, I'm not gonna like this guy. I can tell right now he's arrogant." You know? Yeah, there is some truth to it.
Then you get the new age people talking about energy and demeanor in their flouncy terms. But I think that there's a lot of truth to that too, where the way that somebody looks, even in a photo, is based on their demeanor. Their inner thoughts are coming out physically. But I
Yeah,
don't know how
and then
that will go on.
I say, but then you have people like Ted Bundy who murdered a bunch of women with his charm. You know?
Yeah, but that wasn't his genuine feelings. It was a front. And then it comes down to understanding human nature enough to portray it when you're thinking a different thing. Then you get the people saying, oh, they're geniuses. All psychos are so smart. They have 165 IQ and no share.
No, not all psychos are smart. I'm kind of getting back to uh, talking about the people that I knew when I was younger that were into the occult shit and the racist shit. Most of them were not smart, and most of them weren't really evil. They just happened to find a clique that would accept them, and they just went along with whatever they did, and they would do some evil shit. Um, but I knew a few too that were just dumber as fuck and evil at the same time. So yeah, that phrase it doesn't always hold true.
Agreed. I think that a lot of the people who fall into doing evil things that end up being violent things are probably just acting on natural human nature instincts, but have a misplaced outlet for it. Where like people go and they break plates and stuff in these rooms and scream and whatnot, and that's supposedly a healthy outlet. But then you get the people who go and do the weird shit. That's not healthy.
Yeah, I mean, not all violence is evil, and not all evil is violent. You know,
It's context, the magic word.
and yeah, and really something else that, and I've got nothing to back this up. This is just my own personal thought. I mean, they did say that Richard Allen was a patsy for the people that actually killed those girls, and he does kind of seem like he would be that way. And what I'm about to say is just my theory. I've got nothing to back it up. I've not heard anybody else say it. But there's a clip where this dude is yelling at Richard Allen, telling him he's going to prison and all this kind of shit. I think that dude was giving him orders. I don't think he was necessarily angry about the girls. It's just a gut feeling I have. If I'm wrong, I'll eat it. What's going on, man?
What's up?
Hello.
Hey, Julie. How are
It's the
you?
first time we're speaking. Good.
I
How are
know,
you?
isn't that? I'm doing all right. She kind of sounds like what's her name?
I don't know.
Jordan. She sounds like Jordan to me.
We live close together, so that would make sense.
Okay.
Yeah, they do have that same kind of lilt in their somewhat Midwestern accent.
Yeah. So you think that he's not a patsy? You think he's in on it, or what?
I think he was in on it, but I also think that there are more people in on it because, like I said earlier, when we were out there, I was not part of the regular search team. I was just somebody I knew had land there that he hunted. That area, and I could not see the girls because they were kind of down in a gully type place, but I could see where the searchers were going. And the day before, we had seen people go through there, so I always thought that they had been killed someplace else and brought there. Like after because they called off the search team at 8 o'clock that night. So I think that they were brought there, and one guy could do it, but it would be a whole lot
There's no
easier
way.
with more than one guy. You know.
And I'm gonna go through like all of the later on, like on my stream. I'm gonna go through what the defense alleges this guy would have to do if it was one guy. You know, like pretty much just one man would have to go through this entire list of things, you know, in order for it to be him. And it doesn't seem feasible that it's one person that, you know,
Right.
in my opinion, you know what I mean? It's got to be more than one.
Right.
And I think that maybe you're on base if Richard Allen was kind of like a Charles Mann. I don't even think he was there. I mean, there's no physical evidence that links him to that crime scene at all.
Yeah,
I think it
one
was
of the
more
guys
like a
that I think
Charles
is in.
Manson thing. Like he, you know, had these people do something for. Maybe that's it. You know.
Well, I don't know if you were listening earlier, but like I've been around this area my whole life. It used to be part of my stomping grounds, and I was talking
Mm-hmm.
earlier about back in the '90s and early 2000s. There were racist Odin, if you want to call them worshipers. They worship their ancestors. I don't know a whole lot about it, um, but because their ancestors are Viking, um, they don't like any other race, so they're kind of racist by default. And then there are also skinhead groups around here. Some of them are like actual. Some are just wannabes. You know, these groups of people that shave their heads and wear the boots and like we hate black people. You know what I mean? Like they're not actual skinheads, but they. And Idaville, Indiana, is real close to there. And Idaville, I don't know if they still hold the record, but at one time, Idaville, Indiana, held the record for the world's largest Klan rally. Um, and like I know a lot of racist motherfuckers from this area. That shit, it's still around. You know, it's just not as prevalent as it used to be.
Right.
It certainly
And
doesn't
you know,
sound
I
as
was
intelligent as it used to be either. There are a lot of pretty interesting religious elements to the Nazi occultism, but it seems like a lot of that's lost on people when I hear people talk about it nowadays, where like a lot of the same things are elements that are espoused in Freemason religion. So it's disheartening to hear that they're getting stupider and stupider as the years go on.
well. I think what it is it's not as organized as it used to be. And like I said, around here, sometimes people will just group up like a group of misfits that, you know, nobody will accept. They kind of group up. And someone will decide, oh, we're going to be Satanists. And really all they do is they hang out in cemeteries and play with Ouija boards, which, oh man, I got a story about that fucked my head up. But I'm not going to talk about that today. Um, you know, they just hang out in cemeteries and play with Ouija boards. And then you have other ones that shave their heads and they wear the leather fuck me boots up to here, and okay, we're neo Nazis or whatever, but they're not really. They're just wannabes, you know. They don't like really do anything. They talk about, you know, killing black peoples. My dudes, oh man, my friend was associated with this group, and they had a plan. Um, Sickle cell anemia. It doesn't affect white people, but it kills black people, and they had this plan. They were going to somehow get sickle cell anemia and put it in the water supply in Gary, Indiana, to kill all the black people up there.
What the
Um,
fuck?
they were actually planning on doing it. They just weren't smart enough to know how to get a hold of that shit, you know.
You ever heard of the Vinlanders, Bill?
Vinlanders? No, I don't think so.
Apparently, the Vinlanders is a white supremacist group that are only Odinists.
Oh, there's a lot of those kind of groups around.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, it's Vinlander and Odinist is kind of interchangeable, but so basically every Vinlander is an Odinist, but not every Odinist is a Vinlander, right?
I don't think I'm familiar with that term exactly, so I couldn't tell you. But
Well, Vinlander is a white supremacist group. You know, it's just a group of. It's like the whatever Aryan Circle or whatever. You know, it's just their own little group, but they all study Odinism. But not every Odinist is a white supremacist, right?
right,
Yeah. Okay. That's
And by virtue of it probably being a requirement of their group, I'd say
it's a
that's
requirement
the
of that
case.
group to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
a lot of I mean Odinism, and again, I don't know a lot about it, but I had a couple of friends that were Odinists. One of them fucking killed himself, but that's besides the point. It comes from the Norse or the Vikings. That was what their religion was, um, and it's basically worship of their ancestors. That like they don't, as far as I know, that religion. Odinism is like every other religion. People will twist it to make it say what they want. So you could make it say, okay, we only worship people just like us that are our ancestors, and fuck everybody else. And by default, that would make you a racist. But then there are others that actively um, want to kill anybody that's not just like them.
Right.
And the thing that I always found funny that I would bring this up and like they would get mad. Um, yeah, I'd be like, you know what, you're not 100% Norris, you're not 100% Viking. You probably have some in your blood because you got red hair, but um, your family's been here a long time and they've intertwined with Germany, and which is kind of where they're from, and all kinds of countries that weren't Viking. And so you get all that shit in your blood too, so you're not pure anyway. You know what I mean? It would piss them off.
It's funny to think that you could be 100% anything in America unless your family came over and interbred within themselves.
Right. That's the thing. A lot of Native American tribes, we have this idea of what Hollywood wants us to think they look like, and a lot of them do look like that. But a lot of Native American tribes were they look African as Africans,
I had
and
to
people
tell
seem
someone I
to.
wasn't part black recently, so that's correct.
Why did they think you were part black?
I don't know. I don't know, but I had to tell them in earnest I was not. It was
I
very
don't know.
strange.
You don't look black to me.
No, but I guess like some elements of Native American genetics, like you said, apparently come off looking African in mixed populations. And that has been happening for centuries already before any of the reservation land was being drawn out. People didn't even really consider being mixed. It was just your tribe was this. They look like this. Most of the
Right.
people around you probably look very similar, but across the country, if you're in New York, that tribe might look different. And then, how it works. But it's interesting that that is even a thing where people are talking about their percentage of European ancestry because, like, Himmler, who was the main proponent of all of the occult research that the Nazis were doing, went to India with their eye chart thing and their skin color, whatever's, to go
Right.
uh, see if there was any mixed DNA of these Atlantean like supermen that were part divine being. And it's like a lot of the Nephilim stuff where like the conspiracy theorists talk about that. It's all related to that. Where the very principles that they're trying to draw from are based on trying to find mixed genetics in human populations of non-human species, and it's funny as hell.
I think I would peg you for a non-human species before I'd peg you as black. But the Nazis were heavy into the occult, man. They stole a lot of artifacts, and some of them still have not been recovered.
Thank God she's not pegging you, huh, Bill?
Not again.
His reaction last time was a bit intense, so I thought I would hold off for a while.
Okay.
Well, I mean, if you would have just gave me a little warning first.
I had to give you a taste of your own medicine.
Touche.
Odin was the father of Thor.
Yes.
But I think he was the I mean, lack of a better term, the bastard child of Odin. No, he wasn't with his wife. I think it was a mistress father, was the mother of Thor, if I remember correctly.
Didn't he fuck a goose?
Thor is a goose, and Odin created Thor. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know a whole lot about it. I just know what I learned from hanging out with people that were into it. And then you have people that will say, "Oh, I'm a Satanist," or "I'm an Odinist," but they're just, a lot of them are just like trying to be cool. They don't really know what they're getting into. They don't really know a whole lot about it. And that's where a lot of the wannabe groups around here come in. Is like they'll say, "Oh, I'm a Satanist," or whatever, and they go around and they sacrifice animals, which, like Levain Satanism, tells you not to hurt
exactly. That's
animals,
what I was going to say. You got to specify what type of Satanist you are. You know,
yeah,
either a Satanist
yeah,
where
you
you
have
worship Satan, or you're a Levian where
yeah, Levain Satanists. When people say the Satanic Bible, that's Anton LaVey's writing, and it tells you right in there not to hurt animals or children.
Be decent people, but if somebody comes after you, destroy them.
Right, yeah. And Levain Satanists don't even believe in Satan.
Right.
They're really atheists.
It's a mockery, basically, of God, I guess, kind of, in a way. But yeah, they're pretty much atheist.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Anton LaVey said out loud many times that he just started that church for the tax break, because it's an official religion and he don't have to pay taxes. I mean, Anton LaVey's dead now; his kids are in charge of the church, but that's why he did it. He was a crime scene photographer for the, I think, LA Police Department before he started the church, and an organ player. He actually played the organ in church.
Oh, hear that, Cat Eyes? Tell you, we said she looks like the organ player at church.
Too bad we didn't establish this yesterday, so I could make a joke about how we need Cat Eyes to be the new brand ambassador for the cult, which was the reason that you were late yesterday. You were talking to Paris Hilton, who I put you in contact with. You're welcome.
Okay. We're playing Jeff games now?
Well, I'm just catching you up on yesterday.
Oh,
you may have forgotten.
Yeah.
Yeah, with Ghost. Crowley's Satanist, or like Crowley was an evil motherfucker, man. Like, he fucking, oh man, dude. Like they would mix shit and blood and piss all together and smear it on each other. And they would sacrifice animals and probably people.
I wonder why. I almost don't want to look into it.
I mean, Crowley supposedly actually did like bring up demons from hell and stuff. Like, he knew the rituals and all this kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Supposedly, he actually did it.
Yeah, the Zeppelin group, the people that whatever the fuck band members, when they bought that house, shit went pretty crazy for them.
Yeah, one of them, I forget. Yeah, one of them said, I can't remember which one it was, but one of them said that they saw the other one levitating and all this other kind of shit.
You're so used to hearing like random crazies being occultists now that when someone is actually raising things from hell, you're a bit surprised.
Yeah, some things are just best off not being messed with.
Speaking of, we need to go out to the burial mounds so we can do a few rituals.
Hey, I told you we can make that happen. I don't know about the ritual part. Not because I'm afraid of summoning a demon, which actually I would think that was cool as fuck. Um, but I try to respect those kinds of areas, unless I'm stealing arrowheads. Then it's a different story. But
You mean I can't cover you in burnt red ochre and ash and dance around you in a traditional manner?
well, I didn't say that. I mean, I, um, I don't have to be hard nosed about it, you know.
As long as it's respectful, I suppose it'd be okay.
Well, I actually, I have, or I should say, I know um, some of the ceremonies that kind of got lost to time.
Hmm.
The area that I live in was like one of the last places in the country where Indians could be Indians. Um, and when I was a really youngin, there were a few of them around here. One of them I used to talk to quite a bit that still practiced. They still lived like that. They didn't live in teepees, but like this dude, like he taught me how to tan deer hide with the brains, and he taught me a lot of the rituals and stuff.
Cool. A lot of the stuff here is a mishmash of things that tribes from out west have brought back when the assimilation was a huge effort here. Like, our tribes didn't even really survive.
Right.
There's
Yeah, I mean
maybe
that's what
five
happened here too.
actually recognized ones. Pretty much all the Midwest.
There's my niece, which my brother is a deadbeat when it comes to his kids. I mean, he works and everything, but he just fucking ignores his kids. Always has. Um, but uh, my niece's mother, like she looked native, um, and she was it was part of the Miami tribe. And when my niece was born, because my brother and I have a lot of native in us too. Um, like my niece had enough native in her to be a member of the tribe, and I went to her induction ceremony. And it was pretty cool.
I could imagine so. Some of the stories I've heard from the reservation are really cool about the traditional religion. Like how basically after a certain age, people start to become feared for their powers and witchcraft.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like I've known a lot of people too that claim to be witches or whatever, or mediums, and I think it's. I'm not saying that that kind of thing hasn't ever existed in real life, but most of these people are full of shit. They're just they just want some kind of attention or whatever. But I mean,
Yeah,
I believe that a lot of them actually believe what they're doing, but yeah,
there's also the fact that it's a lot of times a cover up for crime, or just crime being
well,
brought out as, magical revenge and being accepted as that.
yeah, I think it's more of an excuse than a cover up.
Yeah, which is an interesting concept in itself. Now, I'm getting ideas about contacting a tribal policeman. Get more information.
Man, I've got tons of information on Native American stuff.
Oh, I suppose I already do have your number.
Hmm. I don't mind playing Cowboys and Indians with you.
Well, who's gonna be what? You wanna take turns?
I don't know. I want whichever one ties up the other one. I want to be that one.
Okay. I think the cowboy has the lasso, but
Yep, that'll work.
okay. We'll just have to be sure to do that as a separate event from the burial mound ritual because the wires might cross in a bad way. That could be one of your ancestors raising up and thinking that you're a traitor. Years.
That's an interesting concept. Those the mounds that I've shown on here, like those aren't. I don't know if anybody. I mean, I know people know about them, but that's private land, and like they aren't. Usually, when there's a burial mound that people know about, like there will be a sign or whatever saying you can't be here unless you're native. Um, but those ones that I've shown on here, I don't know if they just don't know about them or what the deal is, but there's nothing other than respect keeping people out.
I think there's a little bit more to it, but I think it's another conversation for a different time.
Well, you know what? Uh, that time I was out there, I think it was this summer. I was like, man, I feel like somebody. I feel like I'm being watched. I really feel like something's watching me. And like the next day, people started sending me screenshots of like there was something there. I can't really tell what it was, but yeah, it looked like a dog man or some shit. I don't know.
Yeah, like shadow thing in the bushes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And then the next time, I don't know if you saw it. I went in there and I went in deep. Uh,
Oh.
I've never gone in there that deep before because like my dad taking me hunting out there and my cousins or whoever, they were always like, "Do not go back there. If you go in, you won't come out." And there's all kinds of stories of people that supposedly disappeared back there, but I've never like I've even gone to the library and looked at microfilm from the from papers like from the late 1800s, and I could never find anything like that.
Hmm.
Well, I did find in I think it was 1899. Um, they they caught a how did that story go? Somebody found out that his kids were being molested by his next door neighbor, and the dude started chasing him. And when they caught up to him on the courthouse lawn, and a bunch of guys held him down, and they cut off his nuts with a can opener.
Oh.
I mean, the article actually said church key, but church key, that's what they used to call can openers. But yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of stories about shit that's happened around here that um, some of them probably did happen, but I've never been able to verify it. It's like there's a place called Moody Road. I've actually seen it in books of like the most haunted places in America or whatever. Um, but Moody Road, the story there, and there is some truth to the story, but this I forget what happened, but anyway, this dude's son died, and old man Moody couldn't handle it, so he hung himself in a tree, and it popped his head off. The story goes that when you look through the woods there, when you see a light, um, it's supposed to be Moody's ghost with a lantern looking for his head. But what it really is lights from the fucking highway that's about 2 miles away that you see through the trees.
Oh my god.
So my friends and I used to go out there like on Halloween, and we'd have somebody drop us off, and we would lay down in the little ditch there. And when people would pull in, we would stand up with chainsaws, fire them up. We did that until somebody fucking shot at us, and we stopped.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
I've had some weird experiences where I was in the woods where I grew up, and there are mountains there in the area and everything, but I swear I went to a different place in one area, and I've never been able to get back there, and it's not a very large woods by any means, but I still saw a completely different scene from anything I've been able to see in there since. And it stuck out in my mind for as long as I can remember.
There's one of the local cemeteries. There's a at night there's a tree that when the shadows are just right, it really does look like somebody's hanging from it.
That'd be pretty cool. I'd try to incorporate it into a Halloween event with strategic lighting, where like as people were walking past it in a certain tour, you would shine a light in such a way that it accentuates this shape in the shadows. It's like, look at this.
We were throwing a carpet away, and of course it was too big to fit in a trash can, so we just rolled it up and laid it out front, and the garbage guys will pick it up. But I have a whole shitload of mannequin heads that my daughter used when she went to beautician school that they practice on. And she gave me a bunch of them to use as targets. So I took one of those mannequin heads and I shoved it down into the carpet so it looked like somebody was rolled up in it. Yeah, somebody called the cops.
Oh my god.
Well, all right. Does anybody have any questions about the Delphi stuff? I mean, I don't know. I don't have any inside information about the case, but I have a lot of information about that area. And when they said it was part of a ritual sacrifice, it did not surprise me because we used to find things out in the woods where they had fucking tortured and sacrificed animals and shit. And we used to find where they tied sticks together into different shapes and do their rituals or whatever. But so yeah, it really did not surprise me.
Yeah, I think they said specifically that branches were placed to look like antlers or something, and that's how they knew it was an Odinist ritual.
Yeah, they do a bunch of stuff. This woods in particular I was talking about earlier for the people that weren't here. We called it the Blair. I forget what we called it before that movie came out, but we started calling it the Blair Witch Woods because we would always find sticks lashed together, and sometimes they'd be way the fuck up in trees. And like later on, we would find out that those were warnings supposed to keep us out, but we were the only ones that had permission to be there.
By an unearthly force.
Yeah, Jersey. Huh?
Oh, I was just joking. I'm Halloween mode here. We'll go on with Jersey.
No.
He's more important.
Right on. Yeah, the Delphi case was two little girls that got murdered by a place that I'm familiar with. It's a small park. They were found near the Monon High Bridge, is what everybody refers to it as. And that bridge, when I was younger, we used to, when the water was high enough, we used to jump off of that fucking bridge, man, and yeah, not smart.
Is it a very high bridge to jump from?
Yes,
Like,
yeah,
most people do that.
it's about 60 feet up off the water.
Oh wow. So you have pretty good dive technique.
Oh, you don't want to go in head first.
No.
What I did, I would jump in feet first, feet together, and then you want to hold your nose shut because when you hit it going that fast, you don't want the water shooting up your nose. Um, and I would also cover my butthole because I didn't want a 60-mile-an-hour enema either.
Oh, well, why not?
Hmm,
How many times did you actually jump off of it?
like 3.
Holy shit.
I never got hurt doing it, but there were a few other people, and that never happened while I was there. But there were a few people that got paralyzed doing that shit. So it's not a smart thing to do.
There's severe consequences for sure.
Oh, trust me, Jimmy and Julie is a freak.
And just wait, it comes out at the wildest times.
Like in church.
No, I didn't go to a Catholic church. The Lutheran church was very boring for freaky development.
Well, Lutherans are just lazy Catholics.
Mm, I don't know. I think they're just boring in general in comparison. There's no interesting imagery. Um, there aren't any rules, not to the extent. Um, what else? I don't know.
Oh man, I just squirrel. Sorry.
Yeah, same.
See, it's like how much can I say on here and get away with it? Yeah, I grew up Southern Baptist. Um, the church that that I grew up in, they didn't have rattlesnakes, but they were only like one step away from it.
Rattlesnakes?
Yeah, you ever seen those faith? To show their faith, they bring out rattlesnakes and they just uh, pray that they don't get bit. And if they don't get bit, then God saved them. But if they do get bit, then they pray that it won't kill them. And if
Oh
it
my
doesn't kill them,
god.
then they say God saved me. But if they die, then everybody else is like, well, it was God's will. It's
Oh, I would go back. I'm going back. Give me the snake box. I like rattlesnakes. They're
I do too.
they're really cute. They have different scales than other kinds of snakes that look more like dragon scales.
Yeah, the bigger they get, the cooler their scales look.
Yeah. Hognose snakes have the same kind of scales too. Those are my favorite.
We don't have by nature we don't have rattlesnakes around here. But the steel factory that I worked at, we would when we got lumber in, when we would go to unload it because it came from Georgia or wherever. I mean, originally it came from the rainforest, but it was stored in Georgia or whatever, blah blah blah. But sometimes you would pick those bundles up off the trucks, and fucking rattlesnakes would pop out.
Hmm.
So I would chase them down with a 4x4 and smash their heads in. And one day this old hillbilly truck. He's like, "Boy, you're doing that all wrong. Let me show you." He walked over and picked it up by the tail and just snapped it like a whip. Fucking broke its neck. So that's how I started doing it.
Oh, now I'm just fantasizing about having a box full of rattlesnakes and releasing them on like a burial mound or something.
You're weird. I like you.
That's adorable.
Oh yeah. By the way, people, I don't. You see they sell fucking snake bite kits. That shit doesn't work.
Yeah,
And
don't waste your
also
time.
don't do like they do in the movies and like slit it open and suck the poison out. That doesn't work either. All you're doing is you're going to end up poisoning the person that's sucking out the poison.
The best prevention is to just go somewhere that you know doesn't have it, or if you know that the area does have it, don't go too far off the trail, like an hour or two, so that you can actually get back to a hospital that has antivenom. Because I think that's really your only bet, unless it was just a dry bite, which I wouldn't count on.
Mm. I'm willing to take the chance. It's just when I run across poisonous, and we don't have any poisonous snakes around here. We've got water moccasins, but they're not that poisonous. Um, yeah, I just don't generally. If I know I'm in heavy snake country, I'll make sure I wear the fuck me boots up to here, so that if they usually when you get bit, unless you're fucking with them, which is stupid, but usually when people get bit, it's below the knee. So if you wear the right shoes, then you don't have to worry about it as much.
Mhm.
Um, it's better just to avoid them at all costs because they really don't want any part of you. You're too big for them unless it's like a python or some shit. You're too big for a rattlesnake to eat, so they have no interest. And as long as you don't fuck with them, they won't fuck with you.
The only thing you have to worry about is that they rely mostly on their camouflage to stay away from like humans and bigger predators. So if you are walking in brush and happen to step on it as it's trying to camouflage itself, you may get bit that way. But yeah,
Oh
just
yeah,
don't
for
fuck
sure.
with them. That's the really best advice that we can give, I think.
Yeah, like if I have people with me that aren't real experienced, like say I'm never ran into a couple of copperheads this way, but um, like if I have people with me that aren't real experienced, like I'll just stand there and make them walk 20 feet around me. Or if they're really stupid or just really clumsy, I'll go ahead and grab it and throw it out. But yeah, it's best just to not fuck with them. Dusty, you're a pervert. I like you. Baby was playing with king cobras. Wow. When I lived in town years ago, right next door to me was a heating and cooling place, and this dude had all kinds of exotic animals, and they're like rare snakes and shit. He had a skunk that had the glands removed and all that kind of thing. But one day, he had a pop machine in front of his shop, and one day was walking from my house to the pop machine, and I run across this big fucking snake. I'm like, what the hell? I didn't know what it was. I'd never seen anything like that before. I'm like, what the fuck? What is that? So I went and grabbed a box, put a box over it, and this thing was like 6 feet long if it was uncoiled. So I put a box over it, put a rock on top of the box. I'm like, where the fuck did this come from? I didn't know jack shit about it. I'm like, oh man, I bet fucking Frank. So I call him up like, hey man, you missing anything? He's like, oh, did you find my snake? I'm like, yeah. Just don't touch it. It's poisonous. I haven't got the blah 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 yet. I'm like, oh my god. Turns it was some kind of rare African something. I don't know.
Hmm. Did it have like a brownish and white pattern on it?
Man, I really don't remember. It was
Oh,
black, but I don't remember the pattern.
there's an African snake that I can't remember. Well, of course it was black, right? I can't remember what it's called, but it moves along the ground like a caterpillar does. The way that its muscles on the bottom move are different, and it looks
Hmm.
really cute. It looks like it's crawling instead of slithering.
I didn't. I didn't see it. It was coiled. I didn't get to see it move, so I couldn't tell you.
Hmm. I was hoping to see a big snake when I went to Mexico, but I think I'm still too far north for that, even in the southern part.
I mean, Florida's been inundated with. I can't remember if they're pythons or boas, but Florida's got
Both.
some big fucking. What is it? Both? Yeah.
They're hybridizing out there.
Yeah. People let them go as pets, and now they got a problem.
It is one of my goals to go down there and poach one of these invasive species because free pet.
Why not? If you got a place to keep a big ass snake and um, you have somebody that can watch while you interact with it, because there's been a few people that trusted their pet boas, and next thing you know, they find them all fucking strangled up and shit.
That's part of the fun. I think it would be really cool to have the ability to like climatize an entire house and just have like a huge snake that just lives in a house and you go to the house to visit the snake. But that would be a huge project, probably like that a corporation would have the funds to undertake. But
Kind of
oh,
like
I
an
would
ant
so
farm, but with
smell.
snakes.
Yeah,
I know I've had pet snakes before, and really they're kind of boring. The only time they're interesting is if you're using it to freak somebody out, or uh, if you're feeding them live mice. But you only have to do that like once a week.
did you handle them much at all?
Yeah.
Well, I think that's the part that I would enjoy, having a pet snake.
The only thing I don't like about handling snakes is they fucking stink, man. Like if you smell your hands after you handle a snake.
Yeah,
Oh, you can also get salmonella poisoning that way.
nice.
Like if you handle a snake and then wind up touching your mouth or whatever, you can actually get salmonella poisoning.
I've never had one musk on me, but I'm imagining that that is just a salmonella bomb. There
Jersey
are
wants to know if you
people.
like big old spiders.
Oh, I had a tarantula growing up. I just had to get rid of it because my mom wouldn't take care of it when I was moving away. But I love spiders too. Australia would be a place for me to visit.
Mm. Thing about Australian spiders is most of them can kill you pretty quick.
I just won't pick those up. I will look at them on the tree, the brush, or whatever is out there in the outback. I could go to Costa Rica. There are spiders
Yeah,
all over the jungle.
yeah. I've always wanted to. The Outback is one place that I always wanted to go to, but never made it. And like I've been all over North America, hunting and fishing and camping and shit, but I never made it to the Outback.
I want to go to Egypt to see the pyramids, kick sand over Rami's final resting place, and dive in the blue pool.
Sounds like a plan. That's another place I never made it to.
I think that's the most exotic location that I want to go. Then there's Japan and Peru for cultural things. But otherwise, most of the stuff I wanted to see was here, and I've seen it, so I'm satisfied.
Right. Taipei. Oh yeah, yeah, I remember that story, Frogger. Didn't he? Didn't that dude wind up dying? I can't remember now if that's the same story or not, but
Hmm. What luck to be on that flight, though.
yeah, the flight got delayed. If it's the same story, this dude was like a lifelong ecologist, and he was down like living with um, uncontacted and little contacted tribes and stuff. If that's the same one, but um, yeah, he wound up fucking with the wrong snake. I mean, it's like the crocodile hunter, man. Like nobody was surprised to find out that he got killed by a stingray.
I wish it was something else, though, because I like stingrays. And whenever I say I want to go swim with them, people are like, "You're gonna die." It's like, no. I was kind of surprised that it was a stingray, of all things, and not something very obvious, like a high-heeled venom snake. Or blood loss from a crocodile bite.
I can feed you to something if you'd like.
Me?
Yeah, it's kind of a fetish of mine. I've always wanted to feed a chick to like an alligator or some shit.
Okay, well, you found your perfect match.
Nice.
We can go to one of the lesser contacted tribes, but still one of them that we know of in the Amazon so that you can get back. You're not going to come with me in the
Right.
afterlife. We can have a beautiful ritual. Just
I
make
like it.
sure that when they bury me, that we bring with us a bunch of sweated in uniforms, because it's my ultimate goal to be buried in a burial mound filled with sweated in uniforms. So as long as these things are carried out, my last wishes will be granted.
Well, when it comes to dirty, sweated in uniforms, I know a guy.
We need at least 3 different men.
No, I can
So
get you like a shit ton of them. I really do know a guy. He works for a place called Centos. Um, he drives a truck around to factories and stuff that provide uniforms, and then he takes the old ones and for washing and leaves them the clean ones. So I really do know a guy that I can get a lot of dirty uniforms from.
but are they Chad uniforms?
Not most of them are probably fat guys in their 50s.
No, that's not what I'm talking about. I should specify. They need to be Chad uniforms.
Well, they do have name tags on them, and I'm sure I could find a guy named Chad.
No. You will be thrown into the pit instead if you do not comply with my wishes.
I kind of fail to see the punishment there.
Well, I suppose they'd probably worship me as the banisher of evil, because they could sense your scheme. How you were gonna cheat me out of my perfect death. For what? Nothing. Your own sick
All right.
jollies? Why?
I guess you do have a point.
But anyway, it needs to be at least 3 Chads to get the uniforms from now that we're in the mode of specification. Because I want to make as much work possible for the archaeologists who are going to be excavating this grave 2,000 years from now. I want them to decipher the genetic code of each Chad for whatever scientific purpose they might be able to achieve at that point. Really, you're doing a service for the future.
You've really put a lot of thought into this, haven't you?
Not really. It's just logic.
Yeah, Frogger. I was just thinking back. I can think of like 4 guys named Chad in my life. One of them is really cool, and the other 3 were all douchebags. So I think there's something to that.
I think that's why they called it Chad in the beginning. Anyway, I've just simply adopted the term for my own purposes.
And what's like Karen? I wish that they would have come up with a different name because all of the Karens that I've known they were all really nice. I don't know. It just bugs me.
I suppose this is the flip side of the coin to the physiognomy has some grounds claim that we were making earlier.
Right. Well, you're not missing anything, Danielle, but I was missing you.
I think I may get going to start dinner soon. It was nice being here.
Yeah. All right. I do appreciate you coming up. I was getting ready to close it down anyway.
Alright, well, have a good night then.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Laters. All right, y'all. So, uh, what I said in the beginning is uh, pretty much what I know. It did not surprise me to find out in this area that um, the Delphi murders were part of a ritual sacrifice because it's not the first time. It's not the first time it's happened. It's just that like the stuff usually gets covered up. Like we had a dude. It wasn't a sacrifice, but they found him in a cornfield. He had all these enemies. Everybody knew were bad dudes related to drugs and stuff. But anyway, they found him in a cornfield with 18 stab wounds, and most of them were in his back. But the Newton County coroner said it was the worst case of suicide he's ever seen. So yeah, there's been so much occult shit around here that uh, it just didn't surprise me when they said that their murders were part of something like that. Anyone know when Jeff live stream is going? Nope, I have no idea. We were waiting to address the Vietnam comment. I have no idea when Jeff is going live. I turned off notifications for Jeff a long time ago. Yeah, and when you do address his veteran comment, he'll Jeff his way around it. Like nothing sinks into that guy. He just doesn't get it. Are you gonna do it from the chat, Jersey, or are you gonna try to get up on his panel? The thing is when you do, if you do it from the chat, he's just gonna fucking ban you. Good, yeah, get up there, rip his ass out. I might, uh, I might turn notifications back on to see that happen. And if he won't let you do it there, you've always got a place here where you can do it. And it's up to you. But even if you just want to make, uh, you can say what you got to say, and I can just make it a standalone video. You know what I mean? However you want to do it's fine with me. I'll help you out. All right. It seems like I got company pulling in. I can hear the gravel crunching. Sorry. What are you sorry about, spokesman and co-founder? Are we all? Yes, Danielle. We are all absolutely naked. That's why I haven't turned the camera on. It's kind of a requirement. I'm going to get you up here one of these days too, Danielle. I know you're all shy and stuff, but I have my ways. Oh, you accidentally hit him? All right. Accident's an accident. That's cool. As long as he's unhid. I had to mod White Claw because somehow White Claw got hit. I don't know if it was an accident or what, but the majority of my mods I've had, conversations with. I've never had a private conversation with White Claw though, so he got one of those unusual. He got a rare wrench actually. I unbanned when I went looking to unban White Claw. There was a shit ton of people on there that were banned, and I don't know why. I didn't even know it had happened. So I did unban quite a few the other day. All right, man. Take it easy, Jersey. I'm shutting this thing down anyway. I would like to mod you, Danielle, but I still can't get you on the phone. I still don't know. You might really be a dude. I don't know. I mean, the pictures you sent me are really hot. Don't get me wrong, but all right. So Frogger is unhid, right? Or do I have to go do it? Because I think you guys can unhide him. All right, cool. All right, y'all. Thanks for showing up. I'll see you around, and of course, stay naked.